Hi my dear friends, welcome back to the English classes. Today we are going to discuss about the 10th standard English, the first lesson in the supplementary part, that is Narayanapur incident. My dear student, in this class we are going to discuss about the second part of the lesson Narayanapur incident. Before going to start today's class, let us glance once again what we discussed in the last class. Dear student, in the last class, we were discussing about the brief introduction about the Quit India movement and how the group of students planned to protest against Britishers, and how Babu and Manju were curiously watching the procession, and how these two, Babu and Manju, were talking about the procession. So these were the things what we discussed in the last class. My dear student, I hope that you understood the last class very well, and also I hope that you have prepared your notes, what I had given in the last class. In this class we are going to start with the third paragraph. Open the page number, my dear student, open the page number 191. Firstly, I will read the lesson. I will start the lesson from third paragraph. Listen my pause, stress and intonation while reading. And after completion of the reading, give me the new words which you will find. Got it? Now, let us start. Their arms must have acted holding it up that way for so long, but their faces were expressionless. Now, the leaders of the procession, Suman, was one of them. They saw in excitement had reached the barred gates. A police officer, he was the DSP. Mohan told them, later came up to them. There was some conversation between him and the students. The students seemed to be arguing. The rain had lessened now, and the police officer took off his hat and ruffled his hair. Once he laughed, showing all his teeth, but the students remained serious. One of them handed him a piece of paper. He took it without glancing at it and nodded. The students turned their backs on him, and one of them shouted, Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. The other shouted back loudly, and then they briskly marched back the way they had come. Is that all? Manju asked in disappointment. What else did you want? A dance? A drama? Babu asked scornfully. Nevertheless, he understood her feeling and asked Mohan the same question when he returned home. Why do you go back so quietly? Were you scared of what the police would do? Mohan seemed immensely pleased with himself. Scared? Not in the least. We had planned it this way. We knew they would stop us at the gate. We knew they expected us to protest and be violent. Oh yes. They wanted us to do that so that they could beat us up and haul us away to the jail. But we are not prepared to go to jail, not as yet anyway, not until we have given them much more trouble. And so we decided we would give them no chance at all. What was the point then? Babu asked. While Manju listened earnestly, her chin cupped in her hands. It's like a declaration of war. We have told them, this is war for us and you are the enemy. You don't start a war without first declaring your intentions, do you? Unless you are Adolf Hitler. Amma, who had been quietly listening to them, said with a small smile, right, which we are not. So that is how it was. And what was that paper you gave the policeman? That was a notice served on the collector as a representative of His Majesty's government, asking them to quit India or face the consequences. Come to the 8th paragraph. Suman and another boy turned up after they had finished their dinner that night. The boy staggered in with a large newspaper covered parcel in his hands. Got it? Mohan asked. His voice tense with excitement. Yes, lot of trouble though. Where shall I take it? Here? Let me help you. My room? Okay. Amma. My room okay, Amma? No. I think the puja room is better. A light there will look more normal. Right. As usual, Amma. The puja room. Then. The boy went away after a whispered conversation with Suman. Then Suman, Amma and Mohan went into the small puja room. Babu and Manju stared curiously over their shoulders at the mysterious parcel which turned out to be a cyclo-styling machine. Okay, we will stop here. The student, you will have a silent reading for 2 minutes, and after that, if you find any new words, tell me about the new words. Got it? Dear students, yes, did you make any new words? Yes, very good. So, dear students, observe here. I have also made some new words from the context. See here, new words and their meaning. See here, first one is arm, arms. What does it mean? Hands, hands. Got it? Then ache, ailment or pain. In Kannada, novu. Then barricades. Tade gode, barricade. We may use barricade. Got it? Then lesson, decrease, kadmeyagu. What lesson in this context? This line had lesson. Then took off, remove. See, who removed, took off in past tense, removed. Who removed here and what removed here? The hat of the policeman had been removed from him. Got it? Then ruffled means disorder one's hairs in his hands typically. He ruffled his hairs. He disordered the police officer disordered his hairs typically. Then glancing, noticing. Then briskly, quickly, very fast. Got it? Came up. Here in this context, came up. Came up means moved towards. And then scorn. Here, despise or tiraskarutavagi in this context. Nevertheless, in spite of. Another meaning, although. Another meaning in Kannada, adagyu. But then, scare, frighten, fright, feel fear, immensely, extremely, then haul away, take away by means of a vehicle. Then chin cupped, to hold our head like this. See, whenever someone is listening something very interested matter, he used to put his hands like this. Chin cupped. What does it mean? Chin cupped means form one's hand into the curved shape of a cup. Like this. Got it? And then next one. Majesty means dignity, dignified, supreme. Staggered What does it mean staggered? Walk unsteadily, staggered, imbalance. Stare, look steadily, and then crestfallen. Crestfallen means sad or disappointed face. Then reverie. What is mean by reverie? Reverie means a daydream. And then flung. Flung means what? Throw forcefully. And then startled. What does it mean? Frightened. Again, feel fear. Sudden feeling. Got it? So these are the new words, dear students. I hope that you have also completed making of new words. Very good. And if you find any another new words, go through the dictionary and find out the synonym or equivalent meaning of the words, and you will get the answer about that. Got it? Then come to the lesson, my dear students. In the last class, we had stopped up to second paragraph. Got it? See how all the children gathered and assembled, and they were planned to make a strike against the Britishers. Especially, they wanted to show their hesitation. They wanted to show their disagree. So that they wanted to release their teacher who had been arrested by the police of the Britishers. Got it? So they intended to release their beloved teacher. For only this sake, the group of children, the group of students of the teacher, they gathered in a procession and they were ready to go in the procession in a different manner. So what kind of different manner? They wanted to go in non-violent way in their procession. See how the procession was, how it was an unusual. Yes, it was an unusual because in that procession we couldn't see any kind of slogans, we couldn't see any kind of shoutings, and we couldn't see any kind of loss of public properties, and we couldn't see any kind of damages on the public property. Got it? So that is why we can say that this procession is on the way of unusual. See, usual procession, how it would be? How the usual procession would be? Yes, we are very well known that the usual procession in day-to-day life, the people in the procession, group of the procession, they used to throw the stones on the public property and try to destroy all those things. So their intention is only to show the disagree to the government. Got it? So that is why this procession, what had taken by the group of students in this procession, especially in the village Narayanapur, it was an unusual. It was in silence way. It was in silence. Got it? These students or the children were using the principle of Mahatma Gandhi. As I told in the last class, peace, truth, non-violence and satyagraha. These were the principles of Mahatma Gandhiji, where all these students and children were being used. Got it? Yes. This much we understood in the last class. We could only hear the shuffle of feet and the drip of rainfall in their procession. But on the another side, by the roadside, by the side of the procession, Babu and Manju were curiously watching the procession, and they were also intended to join the procession. And they found the presence of their brother Mohan, who had worn the dress, who had dressed like white pajamas and cream color shirt, and he held Mahatma Gandhi's portrait. Got it? See, while they were going in the procession, in the strike, see here, Manju and Babu were talking about the procession, how they feel. Their arms must have acted holding it up that way for so long. See, their arms. What is meant by arms? Arms means hands. Whose hands are referred here? The hands of Mohan and other friends who hold the portrait of Mahatma Gandhi, who kept the photo of Mahatma Gandhi ji. So why Manchu and Babu feeling like that? Their arms must be act. Act means what? Ailment, pain. Must be acted holding it up, so that for long time. So since Mohan and other his friends had kept the photo of Mahatma Gandhi for a long time, they must have felt the pain in their arms. Yes, but these students, especially Mohan and others who have kept the photo of Mahatma Gandhi ji, they never, even though they felt pain in their arms, they never expressed their pain through their faces. Their faces were expressionless. See in the next line, way for so long, but their face were expressionless. Their face means the students who are gathered in the procession, they were not expressing their pain through their faces to the Britishers especially. My dear student, just observe here, if they had expressed their pain through their faces, the Britishers would have felt very happy about that. Got it? So that is why all the students, they thought that they wanted to do something for the country of the nation, and they intended to release their teacher. So that is why they never expressed their pain through their faces. So their faces were expressionless. Now the leader of the procession, Suman. Do you know who is the leader of the procession? Yes, the leader of the procession is Suman, who was also with them. He was also with all the students. He was leading the procession. Got it? He led the procession. They saw in excitement had reached the barred gates. See, all the students, they saw their excitement at the end of the procession had reached the barred gates. Barred gates means what? Barred, tade gode. Their procession, their strike, their march had reached up to the gate, up to the compound, up to the barred gates. Isn't it? Their excitement had reached up to the barred gates. A police officer in that place, they could see the police officer. Who is the police officer? He was the DSP. He was the officer in the group of the policemen. Mohan told them later came up to them. Mohan told all the students, all his friends, to came up to them. So what is meant by came up? Yes, here came up, moved towards. So here Mohan told them later came up to them. Mohan asked his friends to move towards later. Got it? So meanwhile, there was some conversation between him and students. See, meanwhile, when the group of children saw the DSP or police officer, on the other side, the group of students, they had their conversation. The students seemed, come to the next para. The students seemed to be arguing. Seemed, what is meant by seemed? My dear student, in the last class we understood about the meaning of seemed. Seemed like, what does it mean? Looked like. The students in the group looked like arguing themselves. They were arguing themselves. The rain had lessened. In time, the rain had lessened. The rain had decreased. Got it? Now, and the police officer took off his hat. What is meant by took off? What is meant by took off? Remove. Took off, it means remove. The police officer, he removes his hat. When the rain lessened, the police officer took off his hat. Got it? And then he ruffled his hair with his hands typically. It shows that, see, the appearance of the police officer like this shows that how the police officer shows his angry or dignified nature to the students. The police officer thinks that if he had shown this kind of typical nature, so that the student would have turned away from the place. So this is actually the intention of the police officer, especially the DSP. He took off his hats and ruffled his hair typically. Then once he laughed, then as soon as he removed his hat, he laughed before the students and showed all his teeth. He showed all his teeth to the students. But it shows that how the police officer shows is angry towards the students. But the students remained serious. But the students, in the other hand, who are gathered in the procession, in the group, they never responded. They never responded the reaction of the police officer. They remained. They kept very serious. See, why did they keep very serious? Why did the students keep serious? Because the students planned to be like that. The students planned to be like in that way, to be in silence way. So that is why they never smiled back to the police officer. Then they remained serious. One of them handed him a piece of paper. See, meanwhile, one of the student in the group, he handed over a piece of paper to the British officer. He took a piece of paper from his pocket and handed over to the British officer. He took it. The police officer took that piece of paper without glancing at it. Without glancing. Glance. What does it mean? Glance. Glancing. Noticing. Here, he did not notice the piece of paper which was given by one of the students in the group. He took that paper and he kept it in the pocket without glancing it. Isn't it? But you should just recall it. Recall the situation. Whenever someone gives you a piece of paper or anything else, what do? Just you like to see what the matter is there, and later on you keep in your pocket. That is actually natural phenomenon. But here, this inspector, DSP or police officer, he did not notice the piece of paper. Without noticing the piece of paper, he kept in his pocket. Look at his mentality. Then, at it and nodded, just nodded his head, typically. And the students turned their backs. See, after they completed their intention. Their intention is only that they wanted to give piece of paper to the British officer, and they never wanted to make any slogans against the British officers. After they completed their work, they were ready to return to their places. The student returned their bags on him. The student, all of them, they returned back to the police officer. And one of them, while they were returning, while all the students were returning on the police officer, one of them shouted, "Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai." This is the slogan now. At the end of the procession, they shouted Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. One of them in the group shouted Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. The other shouted back loudly. See, other in the group, they also joined to the voice. At once all the students in the group they joined by saying Jai Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. This is the only one slogan uttered by the group at the end of the procession after they handed over a piece of paper to the British officer. And then they briskly marched back. Briskly, what does it mean? Briskly, quickly. After they shouted loudly Mahatma Gandhi ji ki Jai, then they quickly marched towards the place where they had come from. They went back to their places. So this is the procession made by the group of students. See, why did they make the procession like this? Because they wanted to release their arrested teacher. They wanted to release their teacher who was the follower of Mahatma Gandhi ji by the British officers or the police. Isn't it? See, how can you say that this march was an unusual? Yes, because we can say that this procession was unusual because in this procession we couldn't see any kind of slogans, any kind of shoutings against the British officers, any kind of harmful activities and any kind of damages of the public property. We could only hear the voices of the slow murmur from the watching crowd, and then we could only hear the drip of rainfall, and then we could only hear the shuffle of feet of the students. So that is why, in this way, thus we can say that this march was an unusual march. Why had the student marched? Why had the student been marching? Because the student had been marching to release their beloved teacher who had been arrested by the police of the British. And the teacher was the follower of Mahatma Gandhi. Got it? Now, see, after they returned back, after they went off the place, after all the students reached their places where they had come from, see here on the other hand, Manju and Babu, listen here, Manju and Babu, they were still watching the incident, what had been happening there. Isn't it? See here in the 5th para, is that all? Manju asked in disappointment. See, why did Manju feel disappointed? Yes, there is something. Manju thought that because she is very younger in the group, Manju thought that the procession would have turned in violent way. Manju thought that the student in the group, they throw some stones against the British officers, and the students of the group, they make some slogans, they shout against the British government. So then the British officers would arrest all the students and haul them into the jail. Manju thought that there must be some quarrel between the police and the students in the group. Since she was young in the group, she thought like that. So that is why in disappointment she asks the question to Babu, is this all or is that all? Manju asked in disappointment. She felt very disappointment because Manju expected that the procession would have turned in another way. The procession would turn in a violent way, but it had not turned in another way. What else did you want? A dance or drama? What else? Then what do you want? Then Babu asked to Manju, what else you want? A drama or a dance or anything else you wanted? Babu asked scornfully. Scornfully, what is meant by scornfully? Scornfully, dispraise or tiraskaravagi. Babu rejects Manju's question. And asked her, what else you want? Whether you want dance or a drama or anything else? No, you should not ask like that. She shouldn't ask like that, said by Babu. Nevertheless, he understood her feelings and asked Mohan the same question. But nevertheless, he didn't read the face of Manju. Babu did not understand. Babu did not understand what is the feeling of Manju. Her feeling and asked Mohan the same question. Babu did not understand the feeling of Manju. But Babu, he asked the same question when they come to home. When he returned home, who does he return here? Mohan, see here, come to the previous line. Nevertheless, he understood her feeling and asked Mohan. See here, Babu did not understand the feeling of Manju. Unless he knowing the feeling of Manju, Babu asked the same question to Mohan when Mohan came to home in that night. Why did you go back so quietly? See, this is a question asked by Babu to Mohan when Mohan come to home. Babu asked Mohan why Mohan had come to back so quietly. Why Mohan had gone back so quietly. It is a question asked by whom? Babu to Mohan. Were you scared of what the police would do? And Mohan, see, when Mohan come to home, these are the questions asked by Babu. First question he asks, why did you go back so quietly? Babu asked Mohan why Mohan had gone so quietly. And one more question he asked by, what is that? Were you scared of what the police would do? Babu asked Mohan whether Mohan were scared of the police, what they would do. ಯಾಕೆ ಹೆದರ್ಕೊಂಡೆ ಪೊಲೀಸ್ ಏನಾದರೂ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನೀನು ಹೆದರ್ಕೊಂಡ. So this is the question asked by Babu to Mohan when they come to home. Here Mohan seemed immensely pleased by immensely. Immensely means extremely. See here, Mohan seemed immensely pleased with himself. Mohan, he did not feel like that. He extremely not felt like that. He asked the question to Babu, scared. What is meant by scared? Scared means what? Fright or fear. Fear or frightened? No. I did not fear. I did not fright to the Britishers. Not in the least. He asked that. He says to him, not even in the least. He did not fear the British officer. He says like that. We had planned it this way. And he also said that they have planned it this way. We had planned in this way. He says that they had planned in this way. They had planned what they had planned. The group of the students planned that they never start their procession in a violent way. They never planned to shout against the Britishers. They never planned to make any slogan against the Britishers. They never planned to destroy the public property in the procession. See, actually they had planned like this. He said like this to Babu. We knew they would stop us at the gate. We, who does we refer here? We refers that the student in the group. They had known that they had the group of the students of the group had known that the Britishers would stop near the gate. We knew they expected us to protest and be violent. The student in the group had also known that the Britishers would stop near the gate, and the Britishers expected that the student in the group, they protest and be violent. They protest and be violent. Then we knew they expected us to protest and be violent. Who does we refer here, students? Who refers? Student in the group. They had known that the Britishers had expected from the group of students to be in violent way, so that it would be very easy to the British police to catch him and haul the students from the group and put them into the jail. So that is why this is the expectation of the British police. So here the students, what actually the group of what the students in the group they planned initially that they never wanted to establish their procession in violent way. So initially they planned that they wanted to establish their procession in non-violence way, so that they never like to give such a kind of chances to the British officers to haul the students from the group and put them into the jail. So that, oh yes, they wanted us to do that so that they could beat us up. So here if the students in the group had done so, if the students in the group had gone in the violent way, then the British, it would very easy, it would have turned very easy way to the Britishers to haul them into the jail. So that is why they never planned like that. Could beat us and haul us away to jail. So that they would catch them and haul them and then put them into the jail. But we are not prepared to go to jail. So that is why these students in the group, they had never prepared to go jail. So that is why they wanted to start this strike in non-violence way. Not as it. Anyway, they never prepared like that. Not until we have given them much more trouble. So not until. So when they arrest them, if they do any harmful activity against them, then only they will get the chance to arrest them. But they were never planned to do so unless. And so we decided that we would give them no chance at all. So that is why the students in the group had decided to not to do any harmful activity against the Britishers, and they were never planned to the British police to give such a kind of chance. So what is chance refer here? Yes, catch the freedom fighters and put them into the jail. Then what was the point then? Bob asked, what was the point? So what was the intention? He asked like so. So while Manju listened earnestly, see, on the other hand, Manju was listening the conversation which had taken place between Babu and Mohan. Manju was listening the conversation by covering her hands like this. See what is meant by chin cupped here? Yes. Form one's hand into the curved shape of a cup. She put her hands like this and she curiously listening the conversation of Babu and Mohan. Her chin cupped in her hands. It's like a declaration of war. See, Manju thought that while the conversation was going there between Babu and Mohan, She thought that it was like a declaration of war. We have told them, this is war for us and you are the enemy. See, Mohan said to Babu and Manju, what that? We have told them. They had told the British officers that this was the war between you and me. He said to like that. It was the war between you and we the students. He said to Babu. Actually, got it. Then you are the enemy. Who are the enemy here? Yes, enemy. Who are the enemy? The polices, especially the Britishers, are the enemy to the students. You don't start a war without first declaring your intention. He also said that they did not start the war without first declaring your intention. Without declaring the Britishers' intention, they did not ready to start the war. Do you? He said like that. This is about how the students in the group, they prepared to make a strike against the Britishers, and how they faced the Britishers, especially the police officers, in the procession, and they handed over a piece of paper without making any shoutings. When they were turning, they shouted one slogan that Mahatma Gandhi ki Jai. Got it? So this was the incident. This was the incident happened in Narayanapura incident. Dear student, we will stop here. Got it? The remaining things from the 7th paragraph we will discuss in the next class. Got it?